The 25th Hour Radio Show. I want to thank everyone for tuning in to the 25th Hour Radio Show today. On the phone, I have Greg Carr II, but known to the world as Doc.G from the group PM Dawn. Doc, thanks for joining me on the show today.
Hey, man. Thanks for the real name shout, man. I don't get enough props for having that long name.
Well, thanks for being on the show, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
So, Doc, let's get into a DeLorean and go back in time a little bit. If I'm not mistaken, you and Prince B shared a vision of starting a group together as teenagers, but you ended up getting sidetracked and joining the military. Let's talk a little bit about that sidetrack. What influenced you to join the military instead of pursuing your dream with Prince B from the very beginning?
Well, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. I was growing up, and at the time, my parents got divorced. My father, in this order, lost his job, his car, my mom, and the house. And so we moved to the projects of Far Rockaway, Queens, which felt bad to me because, I watched him work out of the project, and then we ended up back there after divorce. I'm like, dang, we started from the bottom, now we bottom,
Yeah.
So basically, I remember it was like we were going to do this, and everything was cool, and then it was a bully who used to try to steal me and my brother's bikes, tried to steal our basketball. We'd always fight back or something, and then one time he tried to jump me on a Q-22 bus, and it just so happened that when he did this, my stepfather was driving the bus. So after I kicked his ass, and, if I could say ass on your show.
Oh, yeah. You can say whatever you want to, man.
Well, it was one of those things where the nerdy kid with the buck teeth that wasn't so tall but had size 14 shoes that kids called jet skis got his comeuppance, and he got his comeuppance, and basically I beat him up. I beat him up very bad, and I never told my mother or my dad about it, but the guy basically put some type of cash out saying he was going to kill me. So I knew my mom was going to be moving away from that area and everything. So I said, you know what? I'm going to join the military. This way, I'm good, family's good, and there you go. And so I left because, and then also I just didn't have good guidance around me with the way I felt about things. Because if I could do it all over again, I would have had guarantees with the military, like training and not, just go in and just deal with everything on your own without the guidance of a good man figure in your life. You know what I mean?
So you were in the military when the group PM Dawn started receiving their mainstream success, right? And
I was swabbing a deck on the USS Orion AS-18, and based out of La Maddalena, Italy. When I turned on the radio and heard, I'm like, that's my squad, and Prince B and JC, then known as DJ Minimix, they tried to get me to go AWOL. They even, while they were touring, they even traveled to Sicily to catch the USS Orion. And what actually finally brought me back to them was in 92. Had to have been, it was Valentine's 92. My mother, God bless her, she's a great mom. She doesn't like when I say her name, so I'm not going to say her name. She just doesn't like it. She doesn't even like when the newscaster says her name when she writes a letter on television. So I'm not going to say Althea's name.
Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine.
So basically, she sent me a Valentine's Day card, and it's funny because I just put this up on my Instagram. It was a daily news clipping from January of 92. And in the Valentine's card, it said, look what they did to your family. And it was about KRS Attack and Prince Be and Minute Mix. And I became enraged. And I said, I got to get back to them somehow. And I was dealing with my own situations in the military because I've always been good at, surveillance and weeding out bad guys. And so I ended up getting a general discharge under honorable conditions. So I didn't get the GI Bill, but I get free health care. Mm-hmm. And I came back to the group. A guy picked me up from the Philadelphia Naval Base in August of '93 and dropped me off at DJ Minute Mix's house in Jersey City. And then he brought me to Prince Be's house, and then I was back. But B was adamant that even though I was back, I had to work my way in because, you should have been here. So I was is a gopher the right word? Gopher assistant?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whatever you want to call it.
Yeah. I was the guy that mixed drinks for established hip hop artists that were being remixed by PM Dawn. If I could write a book, about the people I've made, I purchased Blimpie just to show you how old school it is. I had to run and get Blimpie. I had to get the Blimpie burgers. I had to get McDonald's, Papaya Franks, and bring them into Electric Lady. I he's like, yo, you gotta, you missed a lot, so you gotta pay the price.
Yeah.
And so, and like any good, but with time, I worked my way up, and as relatives, we had our ups and downs, and I think it really all started for me when the group started winding down, and then he contacted me about 04, 05, and I was doing shows with them, and he introduced me to a lot of great people. He introduced me to Big Daddy Kane, Dougie Fresh, the Digital Underground guys, and I think the world of Greg Jacobs, Shock G.
Mm-hmm.
He's another. I put him up there in my heart with Darryl McDaniels. Basically, he's one of those guys that just, I see them and I turn into a little kid again. And the same thing for LL Cool J, shout to him because LL, I think it's just cool that he follows me on my personal page at Undisputed Doc. And, he autographed a Big Mac cart for me when I was a teenager in Edison High School. I told him I wanted to be like him. He said, "Go ahead and do it, shorty." And he licked his lips.
Yeah, man, yeah. So, hey, let me back up just a second, right? You were talking about KRS-One and this incident, man. It got you enraged.
Yeah.
I've watched a lot of people on YouTube and their reactions to that incident. I want to kind of hear your side of it, your reaction. What's your take on it, man?
All right, I'm going to tell you my take on it. I've heard so many different things over the years from different people, including the two people. And I'm going to drop a bomb on your show. But this is what happened. From my perspective, Prince B always told me the night at Sound Factory, he heard KRS-One was out there. He gave an emotional and passionate speech to his crew, his team, his staff, about how everybody had to step up, raise the bar 12 notches because one of his all-time favorite hip-hop artists was going to be watching them perform. I don't think Chris knows that himself. He's so important. I mean, remember, KRS-One did a song with Just Ice, and the video, I can't remember the name of the song, but the video was shot on the roof of the junior high school where I used to eat free lunch in the Bronx when I would go to my godmother's, in the summertime. So I felt very connected to the dude as a child. growing up in the first hip hop era. You understand?
Yeah.
And so it hurt me on a personal level. When KRS-One did that to him, it hurt me the way Hulk Hogan hurt me. You know, like, it felt like that to me. And I wanted, as a 19-year-old man, I wanted to retaliate for it. And I wanted to fight him. I wanted to battle him. And I wanted Prince B to stand up for himself. And he said no, because he wanted to show another way. And I said, you're not understanding what you're doing to the brand. You need to fight back. And I'm not saying we have to kill anybody, but shouldn't we at least, if we're not going to take a physical shot and punch them in the club, shouldn't we at least fight back with the music? He said, but Greg, that's what I did in Plastic. I said, no, it's not. I don't think that's really what you did. You spoke out against people that want to be hard and things of that nature, but you didn't directly go at. See, I grew up in Queens, and he did too for a little while until his mom moved him to Jersey. So I'm like, and he would come over and chill with us at my grandma Ruby's house. So I'm like, he grew up around our uncles who were scratching Roxanne, and all that other stuff. I mean, we've been listening to disc records all our lives. I'm like, dude, let me do it. And he was like, no. And because I never had an older brother, so Prince B, it was more than my cousin. He's like my big brother. I think the world of him, you know? Mm-hmm. So I went along with it. And yeah, he also said that the article in Details magazine was altered. What he said, he felt like the writer didn't like him, didn't like what he represented, a lot of people didn't like PM Dawn and Arrested Development. And it's funny because, like, De La and Tribe never got that type of hate. They didn't like the PM Dawns and the Arrested Developments because I remember the term used was alternative hip-hop.
Mm-hmm. And
I thought that was ridiculous. It's like, yeah, they called it alternative hip-hop. I remember back in Tower Records days, 4th and Broadway, the home of G Street. And, yeah, it was alternative hip-hop. And I was like, how is it alternative hip-hop? I'm like, and then I remember also, from my perspective, I had a lot of hatred and anger in me in my youth, more so than the other two guys. And I think it was because I wanted to be around my dad all the time, and I couldn't. Mm-hmm. So I took that anger out, and I would write it out, and I would play football. And then I had to stop playing football because of a heart murmur. And, back then, they didn't close the hole in your heart up. They didn't have technology then. Mm-hmm. So everything for me was in the music. And I just let that, I had a very healthy hatred for him. But what made me really want to go after KRS for the incident was the thing that he said on Boom Bap. It's like after my cousin said, let it go, he came out with Boom Bap, and I remember it like it was yesterday. We were sitting in the studio, and because again, we like the guy. I mean, we like the guy as an artist. I mean, we like him. Like, I mean, I don't Run DMC like him, but the LL but I like him, mm-hmm. And we buy the records. We gave him that respect. When I give an artist my respect. All right. When I give an artist my respect, what I do is I would buy the cassette tape, and I would buy the record. And then after the CD came out, I'd buy the CD because I thought it would help them go platinum and gold faster. I mean, because we're all just fans that happen to pick up microphones and turntables, right?
Yeah, man. I did the same thing, man. I did the same thing.
Yeah, and so And that's the tweet that made LL respond and say something back to me, which turned me into a kid. But that's another story.
Mm-hmm.
So either way, we listen to that album and you hear it. You know, the boom, bap, original rap, and you get to the part, on and on to the PM dawn. I buck 2 shots and your squad is gone. I see you had a shriek in your RAP, but never do you want to battle BDP. And I looked at B and I said, I told you we should have said something, and now he thinks he could just say anything anytime he wants. We should have said something. We really should have said something. Should have did. And it's like, I remember I was in a club called Mangoville on Jamaica Avenue in Queens, New York back in 2010. Very cold. It was very cold. And I bumped into, it was either 2010, 2011, but it was a party. It was a birthday party, and I saw all of these guys perform. You know, I saw Kane perform. I saw DMC perform, which freaked me out because I didn't know he was going to be there. And I remember Tretch playing a trick on me in the men's room because apparently I walked past him and didn't say hi, so he shoved me like he's going to push me into the urinal and say, "You just walk past me, you fucker, and you don't say hello." And it's like, I'm kind of busy here, you know. But they're like, and then, you know, and then I gave him a hug after I washed my hands first. Like I gave him a hug, and then we started talking and catching up. And then I walk out and I see KRS-One walking around, and all of this anger like swelled back up into me, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it did. It swelled back up into me.
I imagine.
And I was going to grab him and try to choke the crap out of him or something. And I'm not going to say his name. And this time I'm really not going to say his name. But one of my closest friends grabbed me and said, "Do you realize what's going to happen in this place if you do what I know in your eyes you're about to do?" He said, "Your cousin doesn't even want you to do this. Your cousin let it go. Why can't you?" And I said, "Because we loved him and he hurt us. That's why I couldn't let it go." Seriously. And then I don't know if anybody else will say that or admit that in the squad, but on my perspective, it's like if I go up to, it was the equivalent of if I went up to Cool J for that autograph and he spit in my face and said, "Bounce, shorty." That's how
you respected the man.
Yeah. Yeah. And to a certain extent, I looked up to him and I felt bad for him. I mean, when Scott the Rock got murdered as a child, I cried for the dude.
Mm-hmm.
And all this while he was dissing Queens and MC Shan and the Juice Crew, you know?
So man, what was the circumstances that surrounded you actually joining the group as a full-time member, as a co-lead vocalist?
Okay.
Because usually when someone new joins an established act, that means someone in the group has left. Was there controversy there?
Yeah.
Was there some bad blood? What happened?
There was a little bit of controversy and then a little bit bad blood. So there's a little bit all of that. A little bit all of that, man. So I'm going to tell you what happened. Basically, I got a call from DJ Minute Mix, who was calling himself JC the Eternal. I just call him Jared, or even better, I would call him Spock, because the kid had ears that like you wouldn't believe. So we call him Spock all of his life. I told him he should have been DJ Spock to me. Like, why? Because my DJ hears everything. Like, it would have been dope. And everybody would have laughed every time we performed. But either way, they didn't listen to me. So he came up to me and was like, "Yo, man, I don't know what's wrong with B. He's getting on my nerves and blah, 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 this, that, and the other." And he pulled the gun on me. And I'm like, "What?" So then he came to my house out in Freeport to tell me that, in Long Island. This is around the 04 going in 05. And then B comes to me and says the same. He tells me the story, and I say, "Well, let's get to the good part. Jay told me that you did blah, blah, blah." And he's like, Well, he never came out right and said, yeah. What he said to me was, you have to understand, my brother has always been a predator to me, towards me and everything that I love. And I was like, don't treat me like I'm Barbara Walters. Let me in. What the hell's going on? And so basically, there was a accusation of infidelity, and I believe it to be not true, but it was one of those things where he had went through so much with his brother that anything that he did or thought he did would have caused him to snap on him.
Mm-hmm.
Especially after his brother ruining the group's initial mainstream run in 95, if you remember. So I understood why he was upset, but I was at the time trying to mend them. And that was the first time that Prince Be asked me to join the group. And I turned him down. I said, I love you. I love him equally. I will not come between the two biological brothers because I'm the cousin, you know? And then I watched things deteriorate more and more in the year. I watched B have a stroke, the first one. Then he tried to go to a party. It was a event by some friends of mine called the Urban Nights in Queens, New York. And he gets out of his Jeep and he can't walk. It's like one side is like numb. And he kept laying down. My friends, they tried to, cheer him up and everything, had some dancers dance with him and everything, but he couldn't do it. So I finally just, I said, I'm going to take you home. He said, no, I could drive. I just, that's what happens sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, wow. And then so time goes by because, I get into doing my own thing and doing some local things and trying to build up, doing some stuff. And then for a short while, I also did work in a group home because I wanted to help young people the way I never had been, especially being a child of divorce, you understand? So the end result was I got a call from Prince Be, then I got a call from his wife, and they were saying, we're doing a show, it's called Hit Me Baby One More Time, and we want you to join the group because we cannot trust Jared,
Mm-hmm.
JC the Eternal, DJ Minute Mix, And I said, I have to work that day. I'll try to make it, but I can't let down my supervisor, And so I end up going there, and I missed the shooting of the footage, but he still wanted me there. And at this time, Jared had this weird guy that he said was his manager, but it seemed like they were dating or something. And I'm like, if that's the case, that's fine, but don't stop being so mystical and magical and deceptive about it,
Yeah.
And so the end result was basically we went to do the Hit Me Baby One More Time show, where it's like, you bring an artist from the past, they do their song that made them famous, then they do a remake of a song that was popular in 2005 or, whenever. And then audience votes on who wins. So it was us against Juice Newton,
Animotion.
Yeah, and I'm a WWE guy, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lifelong Hulkamaniac. with an asterisk, and and I mean, the guy, he hurt me. But I love the guy, man. I'm like, before I cut my hair, I actually dyed it red and yellow, my dreadlocks. That's how much I rode for the Hulk.
Mm-hmm.
So I flipped out over Animotion because they did the theme music for Saturday night's main event, the WWF show that came on when the two weekends that Saturday Night Live wouldn't show, and they played wrestling.
Yeah.
That song, "You Are My Obsession," that was the theme song Saturday night's main event. So I was freaking out that they were there, and I was freaking out that the Calloway brothers, remember them? I want money, lots and lots of money. They were behind that show somehow. Like they were attached to that show, and I took a picture with them, and I freaked out there because they threw money on the Arsenio Hall show when I was a kid, and I was like, "Yo, that's the Calloway. That's Calloway. They threw the money on Arsenio Hall." So I'm just a giant kid that loves this stuff, dude.
Yeah.
And so,
even though you were a part of it, you were a fan of all the people that was with you on the show. I got you.
Yeah, exactly. And then Shannon, who I was in love with, infatuated with ever since I was a child. But let the music play, and I got to tell her that, and she gave me her phone number. So it was just And it wasn't nothing bad.
A TV show with benefits.
yeah, it was. And so all of this cool stuff going on, and all DJ, minute mix, the eternal Jarrett can think about is, how come you and B have on matching jackets and I have on a velour sweatsuit? And Prince B said, because you didn't wear a black jacket, you wore a fucking velour sweatsuit. I think you guys are in it together. You're out to get me, and it's just
kind of paranoia setting in a little bit.
Yeah. Then we did the rehearsal, and we run through the hits and everything, and he goes, "Why do I have to be in the back?" And I looked at him and I said, "Dude, you're not in the back. You're the DJ. You're not in the back. You're standing behind turntables.
You're where you're supposed to be."
Yeah, dude, I'm like, you're coming at me like I'm doing something to you when I'm not doing anything to you. And so it was just one of those bugged out things. What happened was he started like bugging out, and after the show he was just completely different. And I remember we had like a little argument, a little disagreement, a very mild one. But he just wanted to include this guy that he called his manager. And I'm not going to say the name of the guy because he doesn't deserve any type of attention. But what I will say is that I had a conversation with Prince B. And after I had a conversation with B, I said, he's gone. I said, he's gone. I said, I'm ready to do this now. And the way he found out was he invited me to the house, and basically he said he was doing a photo shoot, and he said he needed me to come over. And while he's taking pictures, he goes, "Greg, get over here." And I go, "All right, what's for?" He's like, "Stupid, where the new film doing?" And so that's how it went down. And then he came over to pick up some records, and he looked at, he said, "Oh, what's this?" He said, "Oh, these are the new photos for the 2006, run and everything." And he looked, and he saw the picture. It was a picture of me and Prince B back to back, and it was in black and white and in color. And he looked at it, and he's like, he motions with his fingers at me and B, and he goes, "Word?" And B just nods his head defiantly, yes, like, "That's right, you've been replaced." And he just said, and just walked out. And then we just didn't hear from him for a while. And then we started doing the Summer of Bliss, and then that was 06, and then we started traveling all over the place, all over the United States. And I remember him saying, "Dude, all I ever wanted to do was have incredible fun on the road with you, my number one dude." And he would always say that. And we had so many silly things happen, amazing times. I mean, I was attacked by a mountain lion in Denver.
Wow.
I pulled over in Salt Lake. No, I had this nasty habit of finding the most dangerous places to stop for a rest spot in the country. And so I remember we went to visit, like we were going to meet these guys about a record deal from a place called What Are Records in Colorado, Denver. And somehow we got lost because, you know, this is before smartphones ruled the world and it was all about MapQuest and not Google Maps. And what I did is I basically I sat on the hood of the car trying to figure out where we were supposed to go, only to find out that I heard this, like, going through the weeds. And I'm like, and I remember going, and it's like, get in the car now, Doc, get in the car. And I jump in, and we screech off, and I almost get hit by a tractor trailer. And he's like, don't ever do that again. And I'm like, I'm sorry. He's like, I think that was a lion. I'm like, there aren't lions in Colorado. He's like, how do you know you've never been to Colorado? This is the type of stuff that would happen to us. Then there was a time we were almost killed in my Ultima by black ice driving from a show in Youngstown with Boys and Men. That was a funny thing. I slowed down because there was a truck in front of us that was horizontal on the 2-lane highway. And when I hit the brakes, the car started swerving out of control. And so B says, do something, man. And so I hit the parking brake, and the car starts spinning in circles. And I'm screaming, and he's screaming. It's like, ah! And the car is just spinning and spinning. And just before it hits this truck, it stops. And B looks at me, and he says, that's how you drive. Like he imitates Will Smith in the first Bad Book. That's how you drive from now on. Like, that's driving, you know. It was hilarious. It was really hilarious. And basically, there was another time when we just got out of, I want to say it was Colorado, and we were laughing hysterically. There was Stephen Lynch CD that was given to us by people at What Are Records. I think that's who he was signed to. And I like Stephen Lynch, so they got me a autograph. You know who he is, right? He's this comedian that plays the guitar and sings.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And so, basically, I get to Salt Lake City, Utah, and I go to a gas station to use the bathroom, only to find out that the gas station is completely closed. And I'm like, what type of place in 2006 shuts down at night? Like, what? And you know, B is like, well, you know, every place isn't like New York, man. Some of these places do shut down pretty early. And I'm like, that's ridiculous. So I said, well, I really have to go. He said, so why don't you go, I don't know, somewhere else across the street? So I said, I'll go by that deer crossing sign. So I go by the deer crossing sign, and now I'm using the bathroom. And then as I look up, I notice that the deer is standing up, and his arms are over his head. And it's because it's not a deer, it's a bear crossing sign.
Wow.
And at that very moment, I hear, and I'm like, because the sound of the whizzing made the bear aware that he was not alone. And so I run to the car screaming again, and then we screech off. So I have this unique talent for stopping to pee where dangerous wild animals want to kill me. My kids are laughing.
This is gross, right? This is gross, but I guess it's the scent.
Yeah, and I see, and because I wasn't watching Animal Planet doing my homework, so I didn't know that. And I played my film.
Well, man, that's good times you shared with your cousin right there, man, and and it kind of brings me to the next question I was going to ask you. You know, when things started happening with Prince Be's health, and you had to take the reins and carry on the Bliss, so to speak, yourself. How tough was it on you to adapt to him not being there with you when you were performing or anything like that?
Well, I'm going to tell you like this. That for starters, he felt some type of way. Sometimes I think he actually wants it to die with him. And I told him I can't let it because it's a part of me too. And he told me to my face. He said, I remember he interviewed a buddy. We did an interview with a guy in Raleigh, and he said, for the first time ever, PM Dawn is actually a real group because each person actually contributes now. Not one guy doing everything, but then breaking off money to the other guy, you know?
Yeah.
And so I said, I bleed and sweat and cry the Bliss. So I can't let the Bliss die. You know, I always call myself, you know, the utopian warrior. I coined the phrase maintaining the Bliss. I'm the guy that signs all of the autographs and everything. And, you know, I just felt like we needed to, you know, we were stopped short. You know, it was the equivalent of a ball player that flies through the air and dunks and then his daggone patella, and it's like, oh man, you should have saw this guy before this. And it's like, I just want my squad to be remembered and loved for what we did and what we contributed, you know, because it's like we done great things for hip hop and music as well. And, you know, I mean, it's funny how, you know, PM Dawn was never asked to do VH1 honors, but who was banned from VH1 because they wouldn't play a video I dialed it out to because they said, we don't play hip-hop music on VH1. Isn't that funny in 2015 going to 16?
Yeah.
Did they even say something like that?
Yeah.
Because now they're all about hip-hop, and so much to the detriment of it, if you ask me. You know, I mean, so I'm like, I would really love it if people would just show the squad the respect it deserves. But getting back to the whole thing, it hurt me because the first time, I really had fun performing with Prince B. And when I mean I had fun performing with him, I mean like I'm used to him. He likes watching me bounce all over the stage, like certain things like, okay, I don't know how well you know our song, but Reality used to be a friend of mine.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, when Reality used to be a friend of mine, where you go, and what might happen without me knowing is why I find myself always tip-tip-toeing. When he go tip-tip-toeing, I would literally be on my tip-tip-toes sliding across the floor. Like, that's how in sync we were. It changed. It changed, you know, because I told him it can't stay the same because I'm not a DJ, man. I can't. I told him, I said, I can't, and I didn't mean it from an egomaniac perspective, but I told him, I can't stand behind you, and I won't stand in front of you, but I'll stand beside you, just like when we were kids. And that's how it was. So it's almost like I had a musical stroke because I'll never have a better producer than him. I mean, we would get in there and we could bang out 10, 20 songs if you leave us alone and don't ask us to take you to Red Lobster. I mean, we did a lot together, and there's a whole lot of stuff we did just for us to listen to and laugh at music-wise, you know? We got all types of styles and genres of hip-hop music to do, and we just never put it out because either the label would say, or it's not this, that, or the other, or we just didn't put it out, you know? And there's cousins, brothers, other younger brothers and things that we do stuff with, and it hurt. It hurt to where one of the first times I did a show without him, and I don't think it's on YouTube or anything, but there's a time where, like, I had to train myself. I actually had to see a therapist. I had to train myself not to look to my left because I'm always used to looking to my left, seeing him nod his head at me like, yeah, let's do it, because that's what used to amp us up. I mean, we thought we were a tag team champion, you know, like everything for me comes from wrestling and Run DMC and LL Cool J. Like, rage, anger, strength, like that. So, and the Hulk Hogan stuff. So I always want to get pumped. I always get pumped, you know. I even have a little bit of Triple H in me. I drink the 7-Eleven thermos of Mountain Dew, spit the Mountain Dew out backstage, and I'm like, you ready to do this? We're going to maintain the bliss. Let's do it for Utopia. Let's do it for Utopia. And he's laughing hysterically like, where do you get this from? Like, do what for Utopia? Let's do it for Utopia. And he's like, look, it's crazy, y'all. They'll be telling the audience all that, Doc is crazy, y'all. Y'all got to forgive me. We not brothers, we cousins. We brothers from another mother, but Doc is crazy. Like, that's how he would do it. And so my show lost that sort of element that like, you know, I had to adjust. And so what I do now when I perform is I let people know, look, the bliss is still here. And, you know, I have a song that I wrote called When Darkness Falls. And it's a very unique song about what happened to be. And basically, it references myself and Prince Be as Autobots and diabetes as Decepticon.
Mm-hmm.
And it just basically, you know, it explains to people. And I approach music with a Jean Grey attitude. I give the people what they want. A lot of times, we change the way we perform because I notice a lot of people give you the good stuff last. Normally, we lead off with True into Spandau Ballet. And True by Spandau Ballet into Adrift On Memory Bliss.
Yeah.
And we give them the good stuff. And the reason why is because I would go on Facebook and even back in the early 2000s, I'd go on MySpace and fans would be like, oh man, you know, I didn't get to hear you sing Set Adrift because I had to go home and relieve the babysitter. So I'm like, okay, our fans are not just kids now. They're grown-ups who have kids like us, and they can't stay out late. So we say, okay, we're going to do this now, and then we're going to do it at the end so that if you have to go home and relieve the babysitter, you don't miss it. And we give them Set Adrift, Taste Knives, Die Without You, Got to Be Moving On Up, Paper Doll, you know, and then, you know, we do other stuff, and then we go back to it. And, you know, so now it's like, sometimes I like to feel them out. I like to live dangerously. I like to just feel the crowd out. Like, I tell them, y'all want to go old school bliss? Y'all want some new school bliss? Or I'll say, can I take y'all back to 1991? Can I welcome you to the Utopian experience? Yeah. Or I say, y'all want to hear some new music? Yeah. And it's so far so good.
So over the past few years, you've incorporated the classic hits and some of your original music in your performances. And the single you got out right now is called Stripe and Goose. First of all, what is Stripe and Goose? And what are we talking about here on this track?
Okay, I'm going to lay it on you. Remember early on, I told you I did work for a short while as a child care worker in a group home. And after I would get off from work, we would go to an Applebee's on Route 110 in Amityville, New York, Long Island. And me and my friends, and we would hang out in the Applebee's. And, everything I said in the song is true. And we would just, have a good time, have a couple of drinks. My beverage of choice was I would drink Red Stripe beer and Grey Goose. And I would just have good times, fun times with these friends, these coworkers. And, sometimes you meet somebody. I was a single man, and so I'd meet somebody. Hey, you want to hang out? Can I have your phone number? Can we go to the movies? We can go to the mall. Nice to me. I'll buy you a pair of Adidas. That's some 7-Eleven coffee with blueberry and hazelnut. But that's the type of guy I was. I mean, I was I always felt like Prince Be always told me. He said, "You're one of those dudes that jokes your way to the women." Like he said if he could, he would always tell people, like, be careful. If he makes you laugh, he's gonna wake up with you. Like, he would say stuff like that to people, like to tell us, stay away from my cousin. But that's what Stripe and Goose. See, Stripe and Goose for me, and somebody's asked me this already. I think my manager, Ben Kaufman of Dreamline Entertainment, he was Chief Pop right there. And basically, Stripe and Goose is about enjoying your favorite beverage while you are enjoying your life and enjoying the people that are in it.
I'm curious, man. Do you do everything yourself as far as the music is concerned, or do you get people assisting?
I do it the Puffy and the Missy Elliott way. I find people, talented people, and I tell them what's in my head. And if I'm lucky enough, they can squeeze it out of my head and extract it into a laptop, and and make it sound the way I need it to sound. That's how it's always hit me. The only problem is the only one that ever really got me was Prince B. If I say Prince, I'm hearing this, I'm hearing this. Okay, boom, 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 boom. Or sometimes Prince would just say, "Oh, this is all you. Look, check it out." That's how it was. And this time around, I enlisted a couple of young guns, some local, some in other states. And I had been let down by a few people, but one guy really stepped up to the plate. His name is Big Swerve of Trackstar Productions. Not a cheap pop or anything, just he's a great dude, and he I brought him these files. I said, look, I tried to get these other guys to do it, and they just weren't hungry, man. And he's like, and he said in his Stone Cold Steve Austin voice, "I got you, Doc. Don't worry about it, man. You can count on a good old boy from Tennessee to take care of you, man." And he banged them out, and it was great. And I was like, "Thank you, dude. I haven't been that satisfied in a while as far as with tracks and things like that. So thanks." I'm like this. I think nowadays the artist is too damn greedy. And I don't want to produce my own record. This is what I mean. I would rather tell a producer that I have a friendship with. And that's what I explained to these guys. I didn't just have a producer. I had a brother, a cousin, a relative. We'll never be blood relatives, but we need to be friends. I need to love the people that I'm doing things with. I'm very serious about that. I have to love these people. I have to really, truly care about these people, and I need them to really, truly care about me. Because I want to give them my best, and I want to get their best back.
Man, speaking of people assisting you, I seen a video with you and your son. You think he's going to follow in his dad's footsteps?
He already has. We'll be rehearsing, and he goes, he's 3 years old. His name is William, and he goes, "Daddy, can I try, please?" And then he has a Brooklyn accent. It's funny, and he'll say, "So can I try, please?" Give him the mic, and he tried to say he's 3 years old, but he knows the whole lyrics to that HTC rap that I made a while back.
Yeah, I watched that. Yeah.
I don't like Apple. I don't like anything about the iPhone. I don't like anything that tries to tell me what to do and say, you have to do it like this. I'm like, why can't I Bluetooth something to somebody else? Or why can't, I love everything about the Android system. I like that I can make mixtapes by hooking an Android phone up to my PlayStation 3. And, because in a PlayStation 3, this is why I keep them around, even though I got the PS4. With a PlayStation 3, you could label the songs and make titles. So, if you're dating somebody and you're like, "My love mix for Trudy." You want to put
Gotcha, yeah.
You put all, yeah. So, this is something Prince B started back in the day, and now I do it with my kids. I do WDAD radio, and all the songs without curse words or profanity or nothing in them. You put those on there, and then you switch to that, and then they could listen to that in the car and everything. So, I'm one of those guys, and it's I love the HTC brand. They never paid me a dime, okay? Never paid me a single dime. I never asked for it. All I ever wanted them to do was just, I just wanted people to see them the way I see them. That's all. And so I made the song and I gave it to one of their executives, and he passed it to another dude, and the other dude said, dude, we'll fly you to Seattle and shoot a video for the song. And the mobile world attacked me for it. Like The Verge, like, obliterated me. They were like, this song is bad. This is bad. You know, and this guy, Vlad Savant, they're characters, The Verge. They're posers. They sit around a table talking about what they like and don't like, and they're sipping out of their coffee mugs with their Apple iMac, their iPhone. I'm like, you dudes are so biased, it's ridiculous. You know, I'm like, but you want to talk about what you like and dislike about Android. So I just think that's funny. And, you know, and getting back to the whole video thing, I love my kids, and I just wanted to, I try to teach them. Since they both told me that they want to rap, I say, well, if you're going to rap, we got to start from where it started. So I'm making them learn the hip, the hop, the hip it, the rocking to the hip hop. You don't stop, and
There you go.
Yeah. So, and you know something? I'm gonna tell you something. If you're leading it into the Stripe and Goose, yes, that's the sound I'm trying to recreate. Because one of the greatest things about hip hop to me was the Fat Boys. I mean, people don't give the Fat Boys enough credit for what they brought to mainstream. I mean, the Fat Boys was on Regis with doing the Wipeout, you know, and when I think of Stripe and Goose, I think of the Wipeout, I think of the Busta Moves. That's what I was shooting for. I wanted to be as cool as the people I looked up to. And, you know, I love Marvin Young, you know, Young MC. He's like the greatest human being you'll ever meet in your life. You can't find one person that will say something horrible about Young MC. And if you can, then that's a horrible person, you know? I mean, and I never met the Fat Boys, and I never met the Human Beatbox, rest in peace. But I respected them, and I loved them just as much as I loved everybody else. But like I say, I love these rap dudes, man. I care about them, you know? Like, I want to meet DMX someday and give him a hug and go, dude, I lost my grandmother too. My grandmother was everything to me, you know? Because if you listen, if you're really a fan of DMX, his life didn't really go the way it went until that album we lost, you know, he lost his grandma.
Yeah.
And I completely understand that, because when we was doing the Summer of Bliss in 06, I remember James Brown died on Christmas Day, and we were in Molokai in Hawaii. We were touring, and the boat broke down, and we couldn't get off the island, so we missed Christmas with our people, and we couldn't leave. And I remember when James Brown died, I said, James Brown is dead? I said, what? Like, what's the world, what's going to happen next? Who's going to die next? I'm like, if James Brown could die, anybody could die. I'm like, I thought James Brown was going to live forever. I mean, when it comes to James Brown, it's like JoJo Dancer. He's never going to die. He's going to be 272 and still doing his thing. You know, I didn't think he would die. And I cried on Christmas Day because James Brown died. You know, and Prince B couldn't believe I was crying the way I was, but I was. And then, like, 5 days later, December 30th, my mom calls me up, and she says, Grandma Lizzie passed away. And I'm like, I had a stack of newspapers of every place we've been to, and I was going to give them to my grandmother. And she never got them. So, if you could imagine being miserable and depressed in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Man, so getting back to the new single, Stripe and Goose, where can people go to get the links to listen to it or purchase it? I mean, do you do social media? You got website? What's that?
Oh, yeah. You could go to www.tmdawnmusic.com. You could go to the official TM Dawn Facebook page from that website, and you can also go to my TM Dawn Instagram. And, and then there's at official TM Dawn on Twitter. So that's where you can get it, and you can also buy it at all digital distribution outlets. And the new album is coming soon. It's called Maintain the Bliss.
So, Doc, man, is there anything you want to say to my listeners, anything I might have left out before we bring this to a close?
I just want to say to your listeners that I want to say thank you for allowing me to run my mouth. And I want to say the 25th Hour it was a dope movie, and it's an even better radio show.
Cheap plug, but I'll accept it.
Hey, look, I'm humble. Look, I watched a lot of Mick Foley in the '90s. You got to give me credit. He's the king of the cheap pop.
Sacco.
And so yeah. So I just want to say to your listeners, please, if you loved the squad before, please continue to love us. I promise I'll never let you down. I'll never disrespect my brand or the history to all of the fans and the listeners of the 25th Hour Radio Show. God bless you. Merry Blissmas. I love you with all of my heart and everybody else's heart.
Well, Mr. Doc.G, it's been a pleasure speaking with you today, sir. I'm gonna get off here so I can get ready to go out tonight, cruise around and listen to some Stripe and Goose, man. You take care.
Hey, listen to it while you're drinking it, baby.
The 25th Hour Radio Show.